So you'd like to start an Agile software development in your team, and you are not sure which Agile methodology you should use. Should it be Scrum or Kanban? Or have you already been doing Scrum for some time and you still have a feeling that it is not ideal? Would you like to see if Kanban could be a better fit for you? In this video, I'd like to help you decide which of the two methodologies is a better choice for your team. My name is Vladimir, I'm an Agile coach, and this is Practical Agile. Today, I will not be explaining in detail how Scrum and Kanban work and what are the main differences between them. I covered this topic already in another video, which is available here. So I recommend you watch it first if you haven't seen it already. I will also put the link for the video into the description below. So, which Agile methodology is actually better for your team? There are 7 main aspects that you need to evaluate and consider before you will be able to decide. The first thing you need to do is to critically evaluate an overall maturity level of your team, as this can limit your choices to Scrum only. The reason for that is that Scrum is more guiding and prescriptive, so it is typically a choice number 1 for newly formed or less experienced teams, especially those that have no or small Agile experience. Using the Scrum framework, such teams are able to safely build a reasonable level of their Agile experience, establish good working habits, and create an open and friendly collaborative environment. Kanban, on the other hand, is more effective for experienced teams or teams that have already been working in an Agile environment for some time. This is because many Kanban principles rely on a reasonable level of discipline, self-management and self-reflection, and they require a good communication and collaboration within the team. So if your team has not developed these characteristics yet, I do not recommend Kanban as your primary choice, unless you have a skilled Agile coach available at your disposal to help you with your implementation of Kanban. Aspect number 2 that determines the suitable methodology is your team size. Scrum requires the team to be small enough to remain nimble, and at the same time the team must be large enough to complete a meaningful piece of work within a sprint. This typically represents a team size of 5 to 10 people. And if there's a need to accommodate more than 10 people into a Scrum team, Scrum might still work for you, but it starts to be a little bit less effective. In such situation, when there's too many people in the team, the recommended approach is to create multiple Scrum teams instead of one. Kanban has no such limits and is more flexible for the team size. Even a small team consisting of 2 people may successfully practice Kanban, and Kanban may also be a good choice for teams significantly bigger than typical Scrum teams. It is, however, worth noting that it is not very practical to implement Kanban for teams larger than, let's say, 20 people, due to an increased complexity of communication, collaboration, and management in such large teams. The third aspect to evaluate is what type of work is prevalent in the team. For software development teams that do mostly planned product development and follow longer-term roadmap, a slightly better choice is Scrum, due to easier and more transparent planning and forecasting. And for teams where most of the work is related to operations, or for teams that operate under various SLAs like support or infrastructure teams, a better choice would be Kanban, as there is generally a smaller delay in delivery and more flexible prioritization of the incoming work items. Aspect number 4 is the average workload of the team and the level of stress and pressure from the management that the team is exposed to. Note that both Scrum and Kanban, if performed correctly, should protect the team from an excessive workload. But in Scrum, this is heavily dependent on how good the product owner and Scrum Master are, and how well they are able to protect both the team and the backlog. Kanban is much more powerful here, and it automatically protects the team against the excessive workload by applying reasonable WIP limits, which are a mandatory part of any Kanban implementation. Also, such excessive workload cannot even exist in Kanban, as it is purely pull-based system where the work is being pulled into the system only if there are both free resources available and at the same time the team has not reached the WIP limit. So in situations when the team struggles to keep the workload and stress at a sustainable level, I'd lean towards recommending Kanban over Scrum. Aspect number 5 is your environment volatility. Both Scrum and Kanban are designed to deal with some level of changes. That's also one of the reasons why we call them Agile. As a rule of thumb, the more changing your working environment is, and the less comfortable for your team is to accommodate the frequent changes, the more is Kanban suitable for you. The amount of volatility can be determined mainly by looking at how frequent are the changes to your backlog or to your priorities, how difficult for you is to make mid- and long-term plans, how many types of work your team needs to perform, and so on. The aspect number 6 is the level of planning required from your team. Are you expected to plan your work several months ahead? Are you working on large projects and you need to align your plans with project deadlines and milestones? Are you expected to follow a longer-term roadmap? Then I recommend choosing Scrum for your team, as this level of planning is much easier to achieve there than in Kanban. On the other hand, if your team does not have to plan too much, most of the planning is short-term only, and if the speed of delivery is more important than having a longer-term plan, Kanban should be the right choice for you. The last 7th aspect to evaluate, especially for teams just starting their Agile journey, is the level of resistance to change in the team. Switching to Agile development always requires some changes to your working procedures, and Scrum requires much more changes than Kanban. This is because Scrum is more prescriptive than Kanban and requires the team members to change their way of working to match the Scrum framework. Kanban, on the other hand, just takes your existing workflows, visualizes them, and guides you to make them more effective by making any bottlenecks in the workflows clearly visible. As a result, no major changes to your existing procedures are typically needed. Therefore, if the team is conservative and the fear of the change within the team is high, I'd recommend starting with Kanban rather than with Scrum. So, to determine whether you should use Scrum or Kanban in your team, you need to evaluate all those aspects and consider their relative priority in your environment. Only then you should be able to make a sound judgment and decide which methodology is a better fit for your team. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found the video useful. Please let me know in your comments if it helped you in your decision making and if you have any additional questions. As usual, if you liked the video, please give me your thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my future videos. See you soon!